and it's from the views surrounding here that Monet did his paintings. And we have some actually of the joining of the two cruises here, the confluence.
You're getting the deep portrait.
Good place, good thing to paint.
Just look at these compositions.
Right. Bits of it.
Not why I love them.
Go.
Shame.
No, none of that.
Bonjour, je suis Peter Wood, un artiste anglais. Maintenant, je peinture en France. Je suis frère de Monet. Je peinture de l'impressionnisme. Okay, we're going to paint the beautiful river, which is the river Creuse. And I've got a group of ladies with me. That's what they call themselves anyway. And they're students, apparently, and they wish to learn more about watercolour. How many ladies are interested in watercolour here? About 2. And pastel, have you tried pastel? Yeah. But you're just interested in just multimedia, see how it goes. But all of these brushes have a use. So by the end of the day, you'll be able to look at some of these and say, well, what is that, and what does that, and why? For instance, we've got a rake brush there, which is great for doing branches and leaves and textures. And then we've got finer ones as well, like that. You see the stiff would come in then, wouldn't it? But it just touch the surface, whereas if I use the mop, it's a softer brush, it's going to go right in. So the mop is great for washes to get right into the surface of the paper and do wet and wet. And if you want textural work, then a stiffer brush is better. So, you know, different brushes, different purposes, and we are going to use a few of these brushes with the pastel today. Those things you can buy from the pound shops, magic sponges. But they're also magic erasers for watercolour. They take the paint away very well if you paint them correctly. One of these will lift it out quite nicely, no problem. So what I do is first, I'll just mark my bore into basic quarters and eighths. We do this even if we're working from a photograph, just work up approximately, without drawing lines across it. Now if I do this now and I say, right, I've got the whole composition halfway here, in the centre for my composition, and a big tree comes up from there. I'm not going to try and paint it exactly, I'm not here to do a photograph. It's very seldom you've got somebody saying, that lighthouse is 1 foot to the left. you know, it's what matters here, isn't it? When you get it home, it's what matters here. It doesn't matter if it's exact. It's you having fun here, and I do enjoy painting. I enjoy doing a demo. I mean, I'm going to get lost in this in a moment. I'm going to keep talking as I work. That's my horizon line. That's the bit that's in between here. That's the tree coming down. There's my path coming out. Everything in perspective is going to go, although of course the river's going down slightly, so although that's my horizon line and that path's going up to there, everything's going to be working almost like this, you see. Cooler. Every single colour has a colour hue. That's not some bloke, you know. This colour hue is warms and cools. So a purple would be a cool hue of red. A cadmium red would be a warm hue of red. In greens, a browny green, such as sap green, is warm, and then a turquoise, which is a cooler green, isn't it? More blue. Every single yellows, lemon yellow, cool, raw sienna or cadmium yellow, warm. So I'm going to play these different hues in here as well. Okay? Ew, a lot to learn, isn't there?
There's an awful lot we don't know.
There's a lot of chemistry. There's not a lot of chemistry between us. There's a lot of chemistry, and the chemistry is something that you will need to know to a degree. Using my colours deliberately to the greys at the moment, if you like, the pastel shades, not 50 shades, just pastel shades of grey. And I can blend that look like that already onto, this is ordinary watercolour paper. It's slightly more expensive than pastel paper, yes, but it's so versatile. Background here, right down to there. I want to lose this white paper actually as quickly as possible. So even though I'm putting, now one colour comes into another. We don't just have green trees, blue sky, brown earth. There'll be blue in the earth. There'll be brown in the sky. There'll be, and we've got to choose those colours as well, one against another, to give the effect of light that we want, the time of day, as Monet did. And I'm going to use a little bit of broken colour in this. If I put one colour over another like that, this is called scumbling, where I'm just rubbing it across. This is called feathering, little strokes. Then the colour that shows through is broken colour. Monet would make orange by painting red and yellow dots together to fool the eye into thinking it's orange. So he was using the pointillist system to fool the eye. And you'll see that it looks very dark and messy now, but gradually it's going to lighten up. I never like to do the same thing twice, and when I do a demo, I've not practiced it before, so what we're having here is I'm doing something quite different to what I'd normally do. I haven't done a scene quite like this one. Now that's much warmer than that colour, so therefore it's going to come forward. And if I start to work up colours together, blending those, and you can see how I can use the brush. So although I've got very large heavy pastels, I can actually use the brush to pick up those pastels and bring out without having to use the pastel even. Now, trick for painting water. If you're painting moving water, it's very gestural. If you're painting, and I mean with oils or acrylics, flat water, then paint the depth and the reflections first with your verticals. Don't start painting the whole thing in horizontals. Start with your verticals and paint the reflections and the depth and the shadows. Then paint your surfaces, the reflective surfaces over the top. The ripples and the reflections on the surface and the little leaves floating, yeah? If you're doing watercolour, you've got to plan that ahead. Dry brush work for the surface, yes, but keep the verticals in your picture, it's important.
I think that's what we're all doing, imagining ourselves trying to do that and what it would look like.
Well, it will look a mess, and what's the problem?
I mean, that's one of the reasons. More of a mess than yours does.
It's one of the reasons I want to show you this way, is because you can just see how much fun you can have and still pull it back, and that we can't. Then this is another big saying of mine. Now I'm going to give you a couple of sayings the way I paint, okay? So just try and remember these sayings if you can. If you start tight, you can't finish loose. It's very hard to go back to being loose. If you start loose, you can gradually tighten up as I'm doing now. Yeah? So start loose, finish tight. My way of painting for ease, however complicated the subject, whether it's racehorses, whether it's children, whether it's, put the right colours in the right places, in the right shapes, relevant one to another, like a jigsaw. the right colours in the right places, in the right shapes, relevant one to another, like a jigsaw. You're drawing with colour. So start with a fairly tight drawing if you like, then you can go loose. If you start with a very loose, bad drawing, unless you're good, when I can just manage it, if you start with a bad drawing, you tend to make it worse. If you go loose into a tight drawing, you're alright. If you're doing the jigsaw technique, which is what I promote, then it doesn't matter what the thing is. If you paint the right colours in the right places and the right shapes and they're relevant to one another, it will just appear, as this is going to. They'll just appear. It's like a jigsaw. You put the pieces together. I had this once to work up these trees. So I've got my background lights. I can put more lights back in as I'm going to do, and I can put more darks in yet. I'm going to start bringing in my warms now. And I can do some blending now with my finger. I could have put water on this and actually move things around with the water, just like you can with acrylic paint. But the whole thing is very pliable at this stage. The textures against things, rough against smooth. Let's start to build some of these little bits of leaf up the edge of the tree. So we're playing some texture against the lights. Keeping it, I'm just scribbling it, making the marks about what is there more than what actually is there.
Yeah.
So let that blue come through into here, it's reflecting through the warms to make the warms warmer. Right, I've got things almost established, haven't I? So now we've got to really start, I can start to sort of look at details now and say, right, so I want to start getting leaf shapes, getting the effects of light. There's definitely rain coming onto my picture, and rain can bugger a pastel up because it does tend to make...
Is that the same brush you've been using all along?
Yep.
Right.
I've just stayed with this lovely oval mop. I can do that most of the time. It's a lovely brush to use.
I like to avoid things called mops.
Well, this is an oval one, so it doesn't have that nasty sounding. A bit of light behind there, yeah.
Magic trick.
And one or two marks, one or two colours can totally change things.
Absolutely.
Keep looking for those colours. When you've got a colour on your paintbrushes, if it's somewhere else, put it somewhere else. So if I've got this yellow and I see it, if I've got this orange and I see it somewhere else, then, you know, let's flick it in.
I don't think I've learnt to see all those colours.
Seeing is important, that's it. A lot of my students say, what's grey, black and white? Now, there's no such thing as white. With an impressionist, there's no such thing as black. Because where there is light, there must be colour. It's yellow light or pink light or blue light, and therefore the black will be a deep colour or the white will be... So save your blacks and your whites until the very last resort, even if you have to. Try and use very light colours and different colours. I mix my blacks with Prussian blue or deep blue and a brown. So Prussian blue and say burnt sienna or burnt umber. Greys mix a blue and a brown and white. And the variety of different blues you've got to different browns, it's a huge amount of greys you can make. But the light's really sunk. I mean, I'm almost painting, it's only the light up there, it's almost painting in grey now.
Yeah.
But it's just giving you an idea how this, loosely we can work it up. Warmer down here than here. So let's really start putting some warms into here. These warm leaves to really get our foreground. And now I can almost sit back because now I've got the hard work done. I can start to tighten up as much as you're the ones in control this way of painting. You start loose, you can gradually tighten and tighten. Let's look at these bits of grass here. Okay, we'll start on these deeper turquoise greens. That comes round here through to this log that comes through, this old log that comes up here. I want that in. But the just grass, another way of using pastels, and you just have fun and explore, yeah.
I can never manage to get past the fact that pastels made my hands dirty.
Yeah, well, I haven't got beyond that. Yeah. The worst time is a hot summer's day and you've got thunderflies about, and then you just forget, and so you always use the back of your hand.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're using glass paper anytime, the special glass papers for doing this, then always use the palm of your hand when you're blending, never your fingertips, which are thinner skin. And they'll be really sore. So if you ever use that stuff, make sure you use the palm. You're forming an impression, an effect of light at first, as Monet did. You know, this is very Monet-ish. It's all loose strokes. It's one colour against another. And you see I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, relax. You're going to paint with me, we're going to have fun. It is a bit awkward in that you're not quite sure what's going to dry out. You know, it throws you out a bit when you first do it because the darks look very dark when you put water on them. Put the right marks in the right places, and the right shapes, and leaves will start to appear. Well, I'm well on the way. Now, at this stage I would think, right, do we start putting a figure in? I could put a figure in here. Are you going to push me?
I think I like it better without.
Okay, but it's your choice. So I'm going to put the dog in there.
I don't think I would want to figure. Oh, where are you going? Where are you going?
We're just looking at a dipper here in the centre of the screen. Something I haven't managed to film before. Unfortunately, this camera doesn't have a very big zoom in it, but just having a quick tea break in the painting and watching this lovely little bird. What a beautiful scene here in France, so like England at its best. If you want to see more tone, the trick is squint. And when I squint down at the scene, you'll see the darks become darker, the lights become lighter, and you see the big differences in the tone, yeah? If you want to see more colour, although you think your eyes are open, widen them even more and you'll see even more colour. But to see the tones, I'm going to try and lighten it a little, so I'm going to use a little bit of some of the lighter, brighter colours here and there, just to try and... I can actually feel rain coming on my hand there, this way. And then look at that tree there. As when passages get messy, it's hard to tell what colours are what after that.
I don't like messy. Beautiful.
Bravo,
Yes.
bravo.
Hooray.
It's a fun for you, and if you'd like that, please,
Lovely.
thank you. You know,
Yes, absolutely.
it's a fun for me to do, but it gives you an idea. Stronger sunlight would have been a better painting, but even so, it gives you an idea. I want a little bit more stronger yellows back here. I want a little bit more yellow just up here, a bit stronger to make those cool seem cooler. If it was a more stronger day. Now you see what's happening there now. Work about light, work about mood and atmosphere, and use the medium as well. I mean, today if we did watercolour on this, I'd have painted all those light colours in the background just as washes, and then gradually worked up sponges and gradually worked up textures at the end. I didn't actually use those specialist brushes on this, I didn't need to, but if I'd had more grasses, I would have dragged it down in the foreground for you.
No, it's really good, really nice.
Homeless!
Well, I mean, what I'll do is, I'll let you in and you can help yourself to a cup of coffee or something while we go up and get the dogs. Yourselves for a bit. I won't sit next to you.
Here is the new owner of the painting with their actual piece.
This is one I prepared earlier.
Well, here we are on a wonderful trip to the south of France, or mid-south, in the Vienne area, in the Creuse area. We're looking at the Charentes. I'm looking at the possibility of buying a property over here, and obviously needed to come and see the areas beforehand, because we are thinking of making this move, and it's a big step, even to have a second home. I need the fishing, I need the painting, I need the lifestyle, I need it to be accessible, I need the right prices and everything else. And at my age, there's a lot to be considered, as well as the relationship and everything else. So anyway, here we are, just on a little trip out to a beautiful village now, which we'll take you to in a moment. But this is just the beginning of the film, to give you an introduction. You can see behind me a lovely field of sunflowers. I'm about to paint those in a moment. And in fact, here are two of the paintings I've done now doing the trip, only the two. One for a lovely group of ladies, English ladies, who would love me to come over and be their tutor. So I said, well, I'll do you a water and pastel during this trip. And this one I'm just going to use the old English standard techniques of blocking and blending onto mongrous paper with the unison pastels again. The lovely scene here, the scene I did the other day, the one I'm about to show you, this one of the river, was done just up from where Monet worked in that area there, at the village of Freslines, where he worked in the valley below in the Creuse. And as I say, I'm looking at the fishing as well in the area. So far the rivers are absolutely beautiful and the area is absolutely fantastic. I'm not quite so sure what the fishing is like. It seems to have been very hard hit by the French, who tend to eat everything that they catch. But we'll see, have a good look round. Anyway, I hope you'll enjoy this trip with me. I'm going to show the paintings separately. I'll show the paintings as a separate film, and just a little brief bit here about it. But this is just an introduction to this main film, where I'm going to take you on our travels around looking at properties in France, so you'll see the properties we're looking at and get an idea, and the prices and so on, and also the various landscapes and how it changes. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's like the best of England in a way, like parkland and so on, but at a fraction of the price and unspoilt. And on the roads, hardly a vehicle. You can drive for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, not see anybody. Right, here we are then. The sun's building up today. It's not too bright a day. Right, it's not easy to get the angles here because I've got to work on my lap without an easel. But what I want to do first is just work out a nice little composition. That, and all the rest is going to be sunflowers here. So let's just work this out. Now we're using ongrous paper, and I've got to use blocking and blending. So I'm going to block in my colours and then gradually blend them forward. They come forward like this to nice big sunflowers here. So we're going to lovely big ones in the foreground, gradually going back like this. And there's my basic composition. As quick as that, let's not take too long. And I'm going to block and blend the sky first of all. So I want a nice grey blue for the sky first. We want to be using quite a few purples today against the yellows of the sunflowers. So I want to use my lot of purples as the opposites in the colour circle to this. So first of all, you can see how textural the paper is, and I don't want all that texture. I want to lose a lot of that, so I'm going to blend in a minute. So let's blend that in and get a smoother surface. But if I blend, I'm going to smudge it. I'm going to deaden it, and that means I've got to go back on afterwards with some fresher colour so that the pastel will reflect the light, so that the pastel is nice and bright. There we go. Now that's nice fresh colour over that. I'm not using water this time, it's just standard old techniques here. Now I want to get a little bit of cream coming into it. I'm going to just clean my pastel off on the foam a little bit there and just scumble the cream across here to give a slightly broken colour effect of this cloud in the background. We're doing fast studies, so it shouldn't take me that long to do a pastel today. And then again I'd like a little bit of pink coming into this, so I'm going to just drag a wee bit of a pinker colour across it just to get the glow of this sky. There we are. Now that's more like the sky today. Seeing one colour coming through another. And that's my basic sky done. Now I'm going to put light bits back into those trees later, but first of all I want to get a nice mid grey green for the trees here. Bring that right down there. So I'm going to bring these trees up using the pastel sideways, just blocking in now, just blocking and blending I'm talking about, blocking it in right down to here. See how rapid this technique is. Don't want to spend too long here. And you see, as I put these darker colours in, the first colour I put on that seemed fairly dark at the time is now seemingly becoming a lot lighter. Now back to my lights again, where I was doing earlier. Just bring some of those into these trees here, right in down here. So that's my background almost done. Now let's work down here, and I'm going to work again some mid-green straight through here to give my background colours first of all. To go cooler, and we need more turquoise coming in. Got much more turquoise in these blues in the background. Just a light coating of that coming across. And look at that beautiful colour, which I'm just going to blend up into there. So I'm putting in my mid-tones, some of my lighter tones. It's a lovely quick way to work. On a smaller scale like this, I can turn out a sunset, as you might have seen from some of my films, in about 10 minutes. So we've got our cools now working in the background, and these warms are now coming in to really start to get the feeling of the foreground a bit more. And as I was talking about these purples, we've got to have a fair amount of purple going on in the background to bring out these yellows of the sunflowers. Down here in the sandy, slightly clay soil. Right, let's start on what we've been waiting for now, these sunflowers, and I'm going to start off with my yellow ochre. And some of these areas here, large sunflower here, blend it in, one behind it there. I'm going to have to go one thing in front of another slightly, so right up and through, back here. Not very bright sunlight today, so I'm not doing them too bright as yet, but we'll work up these darker warms first. It's not perhaps Van Gogh more than Monet in this case, but we're almost at the stage where we're ready to go ahead with doing some brighter yellows. Layers of these things, one behind another, going back up into here. There's no way I'm going to paint all of those in, so I'm just going to indicate those. I'm going to come back in with the darks around it a bit in a moment again. And suddenly the thing starts to become three-dimensional. At last we've got the feeling of the proper sunflowers. So we've got the cool lights and the cools and the warm greens, the lights and the darks, the roughs and the smooths, just bringing up all of these little bits of colour one against another. Just a bit of sunlight at the edges, even though there isn't much today.